Hey everybody. For those of you who I didn't just introduce myself to, my name is Jenni Werner. I'm the Director of Literary and Artistic Development Programs here at Geva. And I'm real thrilled to share the prologue for Misbehavin with you tonight. This prologue, all the material in this program was written by our Literary and Artistic Associate, Fiona. So I want to tell you a little bit about Fats Waller, and then we'll talk about the show itself. So Fats Waller was born on May 21st, 1904, as Thomas Wright Waller to Reverend Edward Martin Waller and Adeline Lockhart Waller in New York City. He was the seventh child of 11, only 5 of whom survived until adulthood. He was closest to his sister Naomi, and they were thick as thieves. They got into trouble all the time. So they would be doing something, getting into trouble. And Thomas's mother, Adeline, would walk in and see Naomi right in the middle of whatever trouble they were getting into. But Thomas would be sitting off in the corner, acting all contrite. And he would say to his mother, "Don't you think we should pray?" Because Adeline was very religious. And he learned early on how to use her religion to his benefit. And so that he wouldn't get into trouble. And you'll notice that that's a little bit of a theme in this prologue. Fats Waller always knew the best role to play with other people, and especially with audiences. At the age of 6, he saw a piano in an upstairs neighbor's apartment, and promptly, on getting back to his apartment, set up 2 chairs in their apartment to pretend to play piano. So after a lot of prodding with his parents and a lot of pretend play, he managed to convince them to get him piano lessons. He picked up everything extremely quickly. His teacher would play a song through twice, and Thomas would sit and listen and watch, and then he'd go home and play it perfectly, note by ear. At school, he started playing the organ for the morning procession, and got his first taste of what it felt like to be on stage. He'd play rousing music to the delight of the school, maybe not the administrators, and he learned to mug or to clown by raising his eyebrows, shimmying, and being larger than life. As a teen who already weighed nearly 300 pounds, his school friends started calling him Fats, much to the chagrin of his mother. Did not like that very much. She unfortunately died when he was just 15 years old. Shortly after, he quit school and started working at the Lincoln Theater, which was a movie theater in Harlem that showed silent movies. And so he was an organist for the silent films. And his classmates would come to hear him play, and they would shout out to him, "Make it rock, Fats!" And he would. Fats and his father did not agree on music, however. And they fought so often about his pursuit of music that Fats eventually moved out to live with friends. And those friends introduced him to stride pianist James P. Johnson, who became a mentor to Fats. You can read a lot more about James P. Johnson and stride piano and how Fats's career developed in the article that's in the playbill, written by yours truly. But I want to tell you a little bit about one of Fats's longtime collaborators, poet and lyricist Andy Razoff. Andy was born in Washington, D.C. in 1895, but he grew up in Harlem, and he also quit school at 16. But he went to be an elevator operator in one of the Tin Pan Alley buildings. Do you know what the Tin Pan Alley buildings were? They were a collection of music publishers and songwriters in New York City. So being around all of these music folks, Andy, who was already a poet at this time, realized that he could write lyrics. So he wrote lyrics and poetry until his death in 1973. But he and Fats met in 1923, and they worked together on over 400 songs. In 1929, Fats and Andy were working together on the musical revue Hot Chocolates, which is a revue that helped to launch such greats as Cab Calloway, who is a Rochester native, and Louis Armstrong. So you hear some songs from that revue in the show tonight, including Black and Blue, and the title song of the show, Ain't Misbehavin'. Fats and Andy actually came up with the melody and the initial lyrics of Ain't Misbehavin' in 30 minutes, which is amazing. One of my favorite things actually about their partnership is that they knew when they needed money, they could go to different publishers in the Tin Pan Alley area and take one song and sell it to one publisher, and then change a little bit of the melody and a couple of lyrics and go sell it to another publisher. And they did that continually and managed to make quite a bit of money that way. They knew how to work this system. So Fats' career was in full swing by the mid-1920s. He recorded for Victor Talking Machine Company, RCA. He toured all up and down in the United States and in Europe. He wrote music and performed in several Broadway musicals like Hot Chocolates and Keep Shufflin' and Early to Bed. And he also wrote soundtracks for movies as well. So his work was on the radio, on stage, and on the silver screen. He was also, unfortunately, a very heavy drinker. He always had 2 bottles of gin with him when he was working, and this is in Prohibition time. He always had 2 bottles of gin when he was working. One was for himself, which he would drink during the session, and the other one he called his encourager for the band. So anytime that the band would do something great, they would take a shot together. He started getting sick pretty frequently, and his doctors told him to lay off the booze, which he did for a short time. But he was drinking to cope with a lot of things in his life. And so he relied on that quite a bit, and so he returned to drinking. And while he was on tour in 1943, he contracted pneumonia and actually died on a train cross-country to a gig at the age of 39. More than 4,000 people attended his funeral at his Abyssinian Baptist Church. And his old friend, who had once helped him sneak into the church to play the organ, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., gave the eulogy, saying that Fats always played to a packed house. Throughout his career, Fats played in both white spaces and black spaces, always with his usual comedy and mugging for the audience. But just because he saw success on all of these different stages, as I talked about, and with both black and white audiences, that did not mean that racism didn't plague him throughout his career. I want to share 2 stories with you, and then there's a third one in the playbill. While he was on tour in the South, their bus broke down. And they tried to get some food from a restaurant up the road while they were waiting for it to get fixed. The manager apologized, but only allowed them to have a couple of sandwiches in the kitchen, even though Fats Waller and his band were already highly well regarded and quite famous. Another instance, they were performing at the Yacht Club, an all-white performance space in New York City, and Fats was outside on a break with his brother Larry. 2 white women who'd really enjoyed the show came up and asked Fats for his autograph. But then their dates came out, and their white dates did not approve of these women talking to Fats. So Fats tried to play it off, tried to back away, but the 2 men started to beat the women. Larry, Fats' brother, intervened on the women's behalf, and the men shot him in the leg. Yeah. There's the third example that is in the playbill is a story about Fats Waller and Al Capone, Mobster Al Capone, which you may want to take a look at, and I'll let you discover that on your own. This musical features the music of Fats Waller, with a book by Murray Horwitz and Richard Maltby. Ain't Misbehavin' is considered a revue, which is defined as light theatrical entertainment, consisting of a series of short sketches, songs, and dances. They often focus on a specific theme or person, but don't chronicle the person's life. So Ain't Misbehavin' focuses and represents Fats Waller's work while commenting, especially in this production, on American history and society, and specifically race and misogyny. As you're watching the performance today, keep an eye out for how Director of Choreographer Jeffrey L. Page frames the moments in this review that are telling both comical and difficult situations. Ain't Misbehavin' opened at Manhattan Theater Club, the original production, on February 8th, 1978. And it was nominated for and won numerous awards, including the Drama Desk Award for Best Musical, Outstanding Actor, and Outstanding Actress, and Tony Awards for Best Musical and Best Performance by a Featured Actress in a Musical. It was Nell Carter who got that. Its original cast included, in addition to Nell Carter, Armelia McQueen, Ken Page, Charlene Woodward, and Andre DeShields. It's interesting to note that in Ain't Misbehavin', in the script, there aren't character names. The script lists the names of the actors. And so you'll notice tonight that the actors will refer to each other by their actual names: Jay, Will, Paris, Maya, and Judith. So think about how that impacts the performance also. When are they playing a role, and when are they themselves? As you'll read in the playbill, and as I said earlier, Fats himself always wore a mask while he was performing, often mugging or clowning for the audience. And so we can think about also, in this sort of a similar way as we think about how the actors sometimes are themselves and sometimes are others, how everyone plays different roles in society depending on what sort of audience you're in front of. Ain't Misbehavin' also has an exciting connection to Rochester. Rochester local Zoe Walker-Ito first started as Nell Carter's understudy on Broadway, which she did for 2 years, and then she replaced Nell Carter after she left the show. The New York Times called her well-nigh perfect, and said that she moves from demure to lusty in an instant. She went on tour with the show in 1981, and also directed it here in Rochester at the JCC in 2016. I'm telling you all of this great information because tonight she's here, and if you'd like to stay after the performance, our Geva Insights program is a conversation between Zoe Walker-Ito and Rachel de Guzman, our Director of Engagement. So I encourage you to stick around after the performance to hear that. I want to end the prologue. We'll have a moment for a couple of questions, but I want to end this with some lyrics to a song by Fats's collaborator, Andy Razoff, which was actually set to music by Fats's mentor, James P. Johnson. And I want to encourage you to think about how the lyrics to Ain't Ya Got Music reflect the experience of Fats Waller and other artists who created incredible bodies of work while living through difficult times. Look up, my weary children. Look up, the day is done. You can tell them shadows keep away, for your place is in the sun. Look up, my weary children. Look up with joyful eyes. You're bound to have your glory day. It's written in the skies. Look up, spite of your troubles, spite of your worries, spite of your burdens, you'll get along. Because you got music, because you got laughter, because you got dancing, and you got song. Are there any questions that I can try to answer? Yes?
Where's the band?
You will see. I don't want to give it away. It's a secret. I don't know. You'll find out where the band is. The question was, where's the band? You'll find out where the band is. It's an important moment in the show, so I'll let you experience that. I do want to say that this is a co-production. So this is a co-production between 3 theaters: Barrington Stage in Massachusetts, Geva, and Westport Country Playhouse. The show started at Barrington Stage over the summer, because they are a summer theater. And we are the second spot for the theater. We're the second theater for this show. And then it will go to Westport Country Playhouse in Connecticut after it leaves here. We've been involved in the whole process from the very beginning. So it's not like a tour, but we've been connected with the process from the very beginning. So it's a co-production between these 3 theaters. Other questions? Yes?
I'm trying to figure out the piano. I see keys.
Yes?
And then what's above that? Are the hammers actually showing? Or
No. Is that Quentin sitting right there?
no?
No, it's not. Oh, it's Will. I can't see you. It's Will. You're facing away from me. There you are. This is Will, one of our performers. The actors are about to come out. We're going to, yes, give him some applause. We are going to wrap up in just a moment. Darlene, our stage manager. We're going to wrap up and let them do some warming up on the stage, and we're all going to head out of the theater. That piano is, there are keys, and then above that is it's just a little decoration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're welcome. You'll see it better when the lights are actually on. Yeah. Yes?
I like the set very much. Is it a reproduction of something?
The set is inspired by this idea of masks. This is another one of our performers, Jay. It's the perfect timing. You see everyone arrive. So the set is inspired by masks, the idea of masks that we discussed, and also by the time period. But it's not, I don't believe that it's an exact replica of anything. Yeah. Well, we need to move out of here so that the cast can warm up and get ready. Thank you all for coming so much. Enjoy the show tonight.